Speaking of the wild disconnect between the left and the rest of America, most Americans are not super happy about masking up on planes. Now, there are polls, and they will say that a lot of people are in favor of mask mandates. Oh, yes, we love mask mandates. Okay, this is called social desirability bias. It happens in polls all the time, where people answer questions the way they think the pollsters want the questions answered. And so what you would see routinely in the polling data throughout COVID was a huge number of Americans would say that they wear masks all the time. And then actual on-the-ground studies would show that Americans wear masks way less than they do. It's like when you ask your high school student how much they're studying every night. They're like, 4 hours a night. And what they actually mean is that they're on TikTok 3.5 hours a night and they're studying for half an hour a night. Right? Social desirability bias. And so if you ask people, do you like mask mandates? People know that the media are treating those who love masks as the greatest humans among us. And so they answered the question, oh, yes, I love mask mandates are the best. We love mask mandates. People polled on this issue will tell you more often that they are pro-mask than they actually are. That's number one. Number two, I think all polls should come with a caveat. How much do you care about this issue? I really think that should be one of the caveats in nearly every poll. The reason being, we take every poll as equivalent in the United States. It's just a piece of poll analysis. We take every poll as equivalent. So you'll get a question like, parental rights and education bill. How do you feel about it? And it'll be like, well, nationally, it's split like 60-40. And then you'll read into the bill, and what you will see is that the vast majority of people who are against the Parental Rights and Education Act in Florida are non-parents. And so if you would ask people in this group, who among you is really passionate about this issue? Like the passionate core group of people who are going to go vote based on the issue, the answer is parents. So what do I care whether some uninvolved single person living in LA thinks about the Florida Rights and Education Act? What do I care what they think? They're not going to vote based on that. They're not motivated by that. None of that makes any difference. Same thing with masks. So you'll ask people, how do you feel about masks? And people are like, well, generally okay. But the people who are the most passionate about masks break down into two groups. People who want to wear a plastic bag over their head and duct tape their neck to make sure they never die of COVID. And people who are like, I don't want to wear a mask anymore because it's annoying to my child. There's like two passionate groups of people. And then there are a bunch of people in the middle who are like, I'm not wearing a mask anyway. What do I care? So all of these polls should be taken with a grain of salt. Bottom line is this. Most Americans are not up for forever masking. Most members of the media are 100% up for forever masking. So the CDC yesterday announced that they are now going to appeal this Florida judicial ruling striking down the CDC mask mandate. This is just the stupidest thing in politics. And Democrats, believe you me, are doing many stupid things in politics, ranging from turning parents into an interest group. There's 63.1 million adults in the United States with a child under 18 in the house. Turning that group of people into an interest group by saying we want to tell your kids that they can be trans is totally insane. Not that they can be trans, so we're going to indoctrinate them in the idea that they can actually be a member of the opposite sex. That's insane. Just as insane is saying to Americans, after everyone's done, guys, we're all back at the office. Many of us have been back at work for well over a year. I started doing my show in person again back in like June of 2021. Yeah, it's just sheer nonsense. Now the CDC is saying, well, we do have to appeal. They put out a statement, quote, to protect CDC's public health authority beyond the ongoing assessment announced last week. By the way, notice the caveat there. So the ruling from the federal judge did two things. It said, one, this CDC regulation about mask mandates was badly promulgated, so that's out. Two, the CDC did not have the inherent authority to promulgate the mask mandate. So theoretically, you could argue with proposition number two and not with proposition number one. You could say, you're right, the mask mandate was bad, but we still have the power to do the mask mandate. The CDC seems to be making that argument. And the reason they're making that argument is because even the CDC does not want to be thrown under the bus. The Biden administration tried to throw Rochelle Walensky, the head of the CDC, under the bus. They said, we will appeal the decision via the DOJ if the CDC tells us that this regulation is vital. That's what they said. And Rochelle Walensky and the CDC are like, well, we're not going to say the regulation is super vital, but you should still appeal because we want to maintain our rulemaking authority. So here's what they say. To protect CDC's public health authority beyond the ongoing assessment announced last week, CDC has asked DOJ to proceed with an appeal in Health Freedom Defense Fund, Inc. et al. Versus Biden. It is CDC's continuing assessment that at this time, an order requiring masking in indoor transportation corridor remains necessary for the public health. So that undercuts the logic I said before. So now they actually say, no, our regulation is necessary. We need mask mandates. CDC will continue to monitor public health conditions to determine whether such an order remains necessary. CDC believes this is a lawful order well within CDC's legal authority to protect public health. CDC continues to recommend that people wear masks in all indoor public transportation settings. CDC's number one priority is protecting the public health of our nation, which is why they have failed to do so to the tune of 1 million dead people. As we have said before, wearing masks is most beneficial in crowded or poorly ventilated locations, such as the transportation corridor. Question: are planes poorly ventilated? Answer: no. Planes are some of the best ventilated places on planet Earth. They have HEPA filters and they're constantly cycling their air. There's been no evidence throughout the pandemic that planes are a main vector or even a minor vector of transmission, because the HEPA filters used on planes are surgical grade. And then CDC says when people wear a well-fitting mask or respirator over their nose and mouth in indoor travel or public transportation systems, they protect themselves and those around them, including those who are immunocompromised or not yet vaccine eligible, and help keep travel and public transportation safe for everyone. Okay, there's only one problem. The CDC mask mandate does not require that the mask be well-fitting or a respirator. Remember, you can use cloth masks. You can use surgical masks that barely fit you. You can wear an N95 that doesn't fit you at all. So the CDC continues to promulgate this. And this is just, they are suicidal, man. They are so stupid. And they are creating a mess. Because now, after this federal judge struck down the regulation, basically a bunch of places in left-wing jurisdictions have suggested that they're going to continue the mask mandate. So, for example, every major carrier in the United States is like, fine, you can take off the mask because they understand it's onerous and annoying. But there are several airports where you still have to mask up. So let's say that you are flying from Fort Lauderdale Airport, in the area where I reside and where my business is. Let's say that you fly from Fort Lauderdale over to, say, John F. Kennedy in New York. Here's the way it's going to work. You're going to go to Fort Lauderdale. There's going to be a sign that's going to say, recommend you to wear a mask. You'll be like, nah, you're not going to wear a mask. Then you're going to get on United Airlines, and you're not going to wear a mask. Then you're going to have to carry a mask so that when you get off the plane at Kennedy, you don't get arrested. Seriously. LaGuardia 2, Philadelphia International Airport. And by the way, if you take, let's say, a bus into New York. So New York City still has a mask or vax mandate. So let's say you take an Uber. If you take an Uber from New Jersey into New York, theoretically, the New York mask mandate still applies to the Uber driver in the city of New York. So you have to carry a mask with you. And the minute you cross that bridge, you have to put on the mask. Like, all of this is insane. You guys want to make people crazy? Great job. Really, really great job. Even Chuck Todd is looking at this, and he's like, guys, what happened to declaring COVID independence and just saying this is over? Why are we still doing this?
When I keep thinking about why isn't the president out there sort of explaining, look, here's the deal with masks. Mm-hmm. We know some of you, it's necessary. We know some of you don't like it. Look, we've given you all the tools to protect yourself from this virus. And he said that a few times. And on masks, look, I'm still going to wear one on public transportation. I hope if you decide not to wear one, you don't pick on people, whatever it is. But they don't even want to get in front of this. And I can't help but wonder, is it because of the snake bitness of what happened when they declared independence too quick?
So that's correct. They did declare independence too quickly. But the big problem is they didn't have to. Joe Biden could have said last June, even with Delta, he could have said, listen, the vaccines are available. You're on your own. He could have said that. And all of his haranguing people and telling them that there'd be a winter of death and discontent. And when Joe Biden says that sort of stuff, it didn't do anything. They could have declared independence, but they can't. So now they are locked down into this. So you have Jen Psaki yesterday saying, yeah, sure, you're seeing videos of people celebrating in airports now that they no longer have to wear a mask and mask up their 3-year-old. Really, honestly, this was to me the biggest issue. So I have a child who's now 2. The masking, I was fine with masking up until I got the vaccine. Then I got the vaccine, and then I was pissed at masking. But I would still do it if forced to do it, because after all, I'm, a conservative. I believe in institutions and didn't want to violate the law. Where it really began to irk me is when you're talking about my tiny 2-year-old baby wearing a mask. Okay, so those are the people who are pissed. Jen Psaki's like, it's just anecdotal, guys. Nobody's really mad about wearing a mask. We love our masks. Our masks are our best friends. Our masks keep us safe. They're like face condoms. They just make sure that nothing bad happens just in case. Here's Jen Psaki.
I would note, I know this is often said, and maybe some of it is because there was the video of people on one plane taking off their masks. Public polling does not actually show that there is a universal view of people getting rid of masks. That's not actually what public polling shows. Now, it doesn't matter to us because we are making our decisions based on public health and data and what the CDC is recommending. But that is not the universal view of the public.
Well, I mean, fine, do it. Find out if this is the universal view of the public. The thing about this administration is that it's really amazing. they're always tacking in a leftward direction, but they're incapable of actually just deciding to do it publicly. And so they're sort of always back and forth. So the left is pissed with them for vacillating, and the right is saying, why are you guys so crazy? The battle for the culture is heating up. We here at the Daily Wire are making some big moves. So be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell, because you're not going to want to miss a single moment.